Good evening. Welcome to our third Friday Salon at home, June 2022. So I will start with my Dory Previn song. Some of you haven't heard it, so here we go. I was riding in my car, screaming at the light, screaming at the night, screaming at dark. I wasn't doing nothing, just driving about, screaming at the dark, letting it out. That's all I was doing, just letting it out. Well, along comes a motorcycle, very much to my surprise. I said, "Officer, was I speeding?" I couldn't see his eyes. He said, "No, you weren't speeding." And he felt where his gun was hung. He said, "Lady, you were screaming at the top of your lung, and you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming in your car in a 20-mile zone, you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming." I said, "I'll roll up all my windows, don't want to disturb the peace. I'm just a creature who's looking for a little release." I said, "What's so wrong with screaming? Don't you do it at your games, when a quarterback breaks an elbow, when the boxer beats and maims? But you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming in your car in a 20-mile zone, you were doing it alone, you were doing it alone, you were screaming." I said, "Animals roar when they feel like." I said, "Why can't we do that too? Instead of screaming bonsai baby in a war, in a human zoo." He said, "I got to take you in now. Follow me right behind, and let's have no more screaming like you're out of your mind." So he climbed aboard his cycle, and his red-eyed headlight beamed, and his motor started spinning, and his siren screamed. He was doing it alone, he was doing it alone, he was screaming on his bike in the 20-mile zone. He was doing it alone, he was doing it alone, he was screaming. I was doing it alone, I was doing it alone, I was screaming in my car in a 20-mile zone. I was doing it alone, I was doing it alone, I was screaming. We were doing it together, we were doing it together, we were screaming in the dark in the 20-mile zone. We were doing it together, we were doing it together, we were doing it together, we were doing it together alone in the 20-mile zone. Thank you so much. And now, let's welcome the one and only Steve McCormick, who already has one CD out. Oops. With Heather Donovan. Oops, where is it? It was here. What happened here? Here it is. But he has a brand new CD and poetry, and he's a wonderful producer, musician, teacher, and an incredible friend. So please welcome Steve McCormick.
You must not have got my little bio, but I'll just tell you that this is my 7th CD that I'm about to release. It is coming out. The street release is next Friday, June 24th. It'll be available on all the streaming platform, digital streaming platforms. The record is called Louisa, Steve McCormick, Louisa. Yes, I am one half of the Love Me in the Dark duo with my partner that a lot of you know from our performances here on Third Friday, Love Me in the Dark. And that record came out right before the pandemic. And this current record that I'm releasing was recorded completely during the pandemic, with people sending tracks into my studio, and I assembled it all there. And it's been done for over a year, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the best time to put it out. And I just last week went to Minnesota and did a bunch of shows there, and came back, and now I have COVID, which I have avoided up until this point. but don't worry, I'm well vaccinated. I'm on day 3, and it's not a big deal for me. But anyway, I'm gonna sing a song for you. The last song, the record, when it's finally when there finally is a material version, when it comes out next week, it's just going to be digital. But when there's finally a material version of it, I'm not going to do CDs. It'll actually be on vinyl, and I'm going to charge a hefty price for that. But it takes a long time for vinyl to be realized, up to a year. So a year from now, if we're all still alive, I'll be sitting right here trying to get you to buy a record and explain to me why you don't have a record player still. But anyway, that is my spiel for my new record. And then I'm also, for anybody here in Los Angeles, I am playing a live gig on July 3rd. It's the Sunday before the 4th of July. So it's that holiday weekend in Venice at the club called the Venice West. And I'll post this information here for anybody that's interested in attending. I would love to see you masked, of course, accordingly. But for anybody that wants to see some live music, I'm gonna take it out there. I've been waiting too long to do this. But anyway, without further ado, I will play this song. This is called What Are You Afraid Of? It's the last song. I love this. Thinking about records, it's great, the 45 reference that you made earlier. This is the last song on side A. I love that we can think of things music-wise, side A and side B. This is called What Are You Afraid Of? It's a song I wrote quite a while ago, although it's got all sorts of lines and little topics that are germane to what we've all been living through. Anyway, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? It's just your beating heart. What are you afraid of? It's just your beating heart. You act as if you just seen a ghost. You wanna love me, but you can't come close to the woman that you wanna be, close to the man you see in me. What are you afraid of? It's just your beating heart. What are you afraid of? Beating in the dark. What are you afraid of? It's just your beating heart. Always jump right out of your skin. You act as if I love some kind of sin. A sin that feels so good you wanna scream. A sin that has wicked kind of dream. What are you afraid of? It's just your beating heart. What are you afraid of? Beating in the dark. What are you afraid of? It's just your beating heart. What are you afraid of? It's just your beating heart. Just the blood flowing through your veins. Just your love feeling growing pain. just your spirit trying not to succumb. Just the talk of your body's drum. What are you afraid of? Just your beating heart. What are you afraid of? Beating in the dark. What are you afraid of? Just your beating heart. Just your beating heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
There's a new one. I've only played it live 4 or 5 times, so it's still very, very new for me, but loving to share it for you all.
Well, we're honored that you're here.
Thanks.
And I was screaming in the dark.
Excellent.
And you're what we're afraid of in the dark. Yes.
Nothing to be afraid of.
Nothing to be afraid of. Yes.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
mute, but I will be listening, and I can read some poetry later on.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay.
That would be great.
Nice to see everybody's faces.
So how is everybody feeling? Should we have a couple of open mic chorus people? I don't, like I said before, I don't call everybody that's here open mic. I think we are all part of the chorus. And in the Greek theater, the chorus is as important as the main characters, right? Because you're also wonderful. Evie, it's getting dark. Where are you? Like Northern California, but like, look how beautiful the sky looks.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look at this. There's a really pretty tree back there somewhere. Let's see if you can see it. You can see that big tree. Isn't that beautiful? I love that tree.
Wonderful.
And here's
Great.
Fuzzy. We're here with Fuzzy too.
So thank you. Thank you for being here. So let's hear Gregg Bell.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, okay. So I need to get into, I just rediscovered this poem. And I think I'll let it explain itself. I don't think it needs any introduction. So it's called The Challenge. It's in 2 parts. I found the rope hanging from the frame, balanced on the other side by spurs, of a painting of Dad on trigger, lariat forever poised mid-swing, unflung above that trusty horse's head, hung in time, mid-gallop, just the way we grew up. After a running, white-faced Angus calf. I stepped up on the couch and lifted it from its long-standing perch. I steadied the painting, hopped down to the floor, and rope in hand, stepped outside to flap dust from weathered coils long unused to use. There, says I as I slap the rope on the floor of the den, challenging my younger brother. Pick it up and throw it. Well, he just sits there, TV going, smiles at Robert Duvall, jokes on me, smile. So I pick it up. Come on. I open the sliding door and step into the backyard, step into the past, and start to build a loop. Feels good, this scratchy roughness in now city boy hands. Almost like Manila, but it ain't. Synthetic nylon, calf rope. I twist the Honda. Then I start swinging. I start to swing, approaching a stone column that serves as fence post, and to my surprise, somehow rope the thing. Number 2. It's my brother, though, that's got it down, that cowboy thing. Long hours in the saddle, the slack, stiff bow-leg stance, the few, if any, words, the easy smile, the practiced spit, the steer roper's many prize silver buckles that fill his bureau drawers. He takes the lariat as if introduced to an old friend, long absent from his forgotten life, his life where he's forgotten how to speak, forgotten how to read, how to wash, how to cut his meat, how to leash his dog, regards the rope, tosses out the coils, and as if reeling Ariadne's string, begins to coil it in, following through the darkened labyrinth, coiling into the animal of his body, letting it take over, giving it rein. And for now, he follows the memory of his marrow into the loop, the swing, and shoulders up, advances in pursuit to cast that line out of the past, to find a mooring and catch that disappearing dream.
Thank you. Thank you, Gregg. And now let's hear Sally Stevens.
Now my dog has started to howl again.
Okay,
Grab.
well, you can go a little bit later if you like.
Let me get one. We'll go one person and then please call and I'll have her a treat by then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The life of a dog, I tell you, these dogs really live well. All right, let's hear Lois P. Jones.
Hi, okay. This might be a good segue from Gregg's poem, which is very moving, the way memory stays in the body and how it was triggered through that lariat. It just, that was very powerful. I really, really liked it. Sometimes music conjures memory when people forget everything, right? But the lariat is really original thought and connection. So I'll read this one piece, which has to do with memory of another life. And this is part of a series that I'm working on. I'm writing persona poems based on the memoir of Rilke's housekeeper who lived with him for the last few years. And some of you already know that I've been working on this project for a while. So this is a new one. There's a couple new ones. And this is called A Ghost of Oneself. And actually it starts with a quote from the housekeeper. And this was one of the reasons I was intrigued to do this. Because she talked about déjà vu. So once we arrived at Museau's gate, everything looked so familiar to me, like a déjà vu. Suddenly I remembered a dream with exactly the same image, a gate, old birch trees, acacias, a courtyard with a bubbling fountain. Frida. Because I have no life, it is easier to remember who I was, though exact names pass from flesh into sunlight, forgotten What stays our land's measure? Perhaps a root system of the soil, a kind of capillary consciousness of the places I thirsted, drank, became. And so too a transpiration, something of me exhaled into the air and revisited, rebreathed. These things fall across the senses like a fingerprint no winter can erode. It's the only way to explain how the birches swayed with returning, this sky's blue as soft and familiar as my shift. Why I'm at the foot of the poet's vineyard now, everything flushed with October. I'd like to empty my mind into this brook that journeys down from ancient glaciers so I could see what flows from past into present. I want to want again, to be the poplar's quivering gold, to kneel and feel my bare knees in the late summer burn. This is what has summoned me, the veins of silence at the edge of this gate. A cloud haunts down from its tufted height. It has a woman's eyes. I close mine and remember old birch trees, acacias, a courtyard with a bubbling fountain. This land holds me in its hands like a pocket watch.
Thank you, Lois. Now, an outside dog is barking, so. Okay, so let's hear Sally Stevens.
Well, I just kind of arbitrarily pulled something up out of the poetry files here. And this was something that was written during the rule of our past president. So that's where the target is. How much longer will it take to not care? JHC, that stands for Jesus H. Christ, in case you weren't sure. I can't fix this shit. I can't dethrone the dumbass, highly paid, self-serving people on corporate boards who think it's okay to approve paying some other lofty individual billions of dollars a year in salary to sit at the head of their table and figure out how to shortchange the workers who actually keep their companies running. I can't look at the pitiful piles of scraps of thrown together tents, bundles of whatever has been salvaged from desolate lives gone off the rails, lined up under freeway overpasses, last ditch temporary shelters from the storm, and hope for any healing. I want to take pictures of those homes of the homeless and send them to all the deaf, dumb, and blind politicians who brag about the terrific, strong economy their leadership has created. And to our president, who celebrates Memorial Day and honors the brave who gave their lives for this land by celebrating his own greatness in another land, the very land where we dropped the big one. I'm surprised they welcome him or any of us ever back there. Half of those folks living under rubble beneath the freeway overpasses are ex-military men. Our president was saved from that fate by imaginary bone spurs, and of course by the few $1,000,000 his dad left him. Stand proudly now, hand placed over chest. Oh, say, can you see at all? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sally. Okay, so now we got to move to Stephanie and Katie. And they have designed a sort of an order of presenting this. So I'm going to read both bios now and then move on. Let's see. Okay. Katie Porter is the author of 10 books and chapbooks, including most recently novel, twice nominated for the Pushkar Prize. Her poems and essays have been published in Rattle, Shark Reef, Autumn Sky Poetry Daily, Writing in a Woman's Voice, Pratiques, LA Poets Issue, Hags on Fire, Verse Daily, and lots of other interesting places. She lives in inland Southern California with her family, where she runs Poemelon. Is that right?
Poemelian.
Poemelian, a journal of poetry, and directs Inlandia Institute, a literary nonprofit and publisher. You can find her on the katieporter.com. And now, Stephanie Barbé Hammer, Pushkar nominee, is a 7-time Pushkar nominee prize in fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. Her new novel, Pretend Plumber, and her new poetry chapbook, City Slicker, are appearing this summer. Originally from Manhattan, Stephanie lived in Southern California for 30 years and now currently resides on Whidbey Island, Washington State, where she keeps on trying to walk to coffee. Please welcome Stephanie and Katie, please.
Thank you so much, Elena. And thank you so much to all of you for joining us. Gosh, I loved hearing the songs and I loved hearing the poems. Gosh, I actually was it looked like I was looking away, and it's because I was taking notes. I was just writing down phrases that struck me. I just loved what I heard. Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you so much to wonderful Katie Porter for joining me this evening. We, as you heard, are both members of the sort of Bamboo Dart Press community. Yeah. Katie's book just came out, and my book is coming out in July. And so what we thought we'd do, and actually this was Katie's idea. I'm the big blabber because I'm a former professor and I tend to kind of talk a lot. But Katie said, can we do something, shall we do something wacky? And I said, great idea. So we're going to kind of mess around with the format a little bit. We're each going to start by reading 2 of our personal favorite poems, and then we're going to mess things up a little bit. Now, since I've done a whole bunch of talking, Katie, would you like to read your 2 personal favorites first?
Oh, sure. I would be delighted. And I will say I'm really glad to be here. I've been hearing a lot about the Rapp Saloon for many, many years. So I'm just happy to finally get to be a guest. So thank you, Stephanie, for inviting me, and thank you all for being here tonight. And I guess it's like, how do you choose a favorite child? You know, I can't put my poems in timeout, but I can read you a poem. I'm just going to kind of pick one that spontaneously, because you might have noticed I'm drinking tea tonight. We are cat people here at my house, and this is cats with literary quotes all over the mug. And I just looked down and I didn't know this, but here's a quote. When I play with my cat, who knows whether I am not more of a pastime for her than she is for me. And that is by Michel de Montaigne. And they figure into my poem. So I figure I will read you this one. So this is from novel. How to teach a cat to type. And it's in sections. 1. Put catnip on the keys and let said cat roll on the keys. 2. Stick with monosyllabic words at first. 3. But of course, one must start by teaching it to read. 4. Once she has mastered Michel de Montaigne, move on to Schrödinger. And and I'm sorry, I have to make my screen bigger because it keeps wanting to skip section 4. Come on. Oh, that was, okay, sorry. Whoops, I'm gonna get back going. When 5, when she rejects conventional notions of morality, be prepared to accept the facts as they evolve to suit her. 6, if she asks for a martini, up, dry, with a mouse, do not bring her a Gibson or dirty, and by no means should you ever bring her anything less than top shelf. 7, do not allow her to wallow in existential crisis. Instead, remind her that you long ago swapped kibble for squab and bring her another drink. 8, when and or if she is ready to begin, be prepared to go back to the beginning and allow her to rewrite the instructions herself. 9, if at that point she chooses not to, remember free will and forget she was ever just a cat. All right, and I will read you a second one, but I'm going to read it to you from the book so that I'm not toggling between screens. Okay. So everybody needs a little confidence boost once in a while. So this is also a poem in sections, but it's numbered 1 through 10, so almost like a list poem. And it's called Death's Daily Affirmations for Confidence and Success. 1, I am confident in my ability to transition the living to the dead. 2, I give myself permission to do my job as I must without remorse. 3, I am good at this job. I've been told I'm a natural. 4, so what if I've been passed over for higher office? It's their loss. 5, next time, I will not be intimidated. I will ask for that raise. 6, when I'm feeling down, I give myself permission to wear my fuzzy purple slippers. Purple makes me feel good. 6, repeat, it is never my fault. It is never my decision. 7, it's acceptable to arrive early, to give them the impression that they were able to negotiate for that extra day. Win-win. 8, accept that drink. Accept that bubble bath. 9, never tell them why. 10, don't forget to turn out the lights. So, Stephanie, I'd love to hear what 2 poems you would like to start with.
All right, Katie, I can do that. And you know, I almost picked the death poem for the thing we're going to do in a little while. So I almost picked it, but didn't. And so it's like, it was a good call, but I love that one. It's so, it's kind of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but for now. I just love that one. It's so awesome. Okay, and now everybody, now for something completely different. City Slicker is a kind of mini memoir of my experience with the outside. So I'm going to read to you a poem near the end of the collection and then one from near the beginning. So this is near the end, and this is North Hollywood 2019 for Lillian Barrett and Robert Murphy. SoCal, you are my country, where I worked at the bankrupt university, where I birthed books, my favorite human, an almost divorce, and at least 2 nervous breakdowns. It's too hot to live here. The allergens kill me. The drought's over only for now, but I see those 2 tall palm trees shimmering in the 100-degree temperature, waving in front of the 2 big building on Lancashire, and I feel the power pouring into me from the heat. There's songs and stories still left in me. They rise up like sweet young things, strutting their stuff on Chandler and Ventura in high heels, flexing tattooed muscles, bending back barbells in a Burbank gym, dreaming of fake fights under television cameras. Those orange buses keep lumbering around the corner, and they will take me somewhere beach-like and surprising, or even hotter than this spot. It's possible. Agoura Hills, maybe, or even Pacoima. See, I'd rather burn up alive here, smoldering, than dissolve in the moisture of those admittedly beautiful Pacific Northwest trees. Understand, I hate some of the people here more than any I've known anywhere, but the ones I love most are also here in Beverly Hills, Ontario, Echo Park, Venice, Santa Monica, Riverside, Claremont, Westwood, and right here in North Hollywood, along with comic books, nudie and informational plaques, broken down small theaters, garage bands and symphonies, and galleries showing paintings by background painters for the major studios. Funny how what they paint in their spare time, that's all backgrounds too, like me. I'm a background poet. What's cool about being in the background is you can focus on whatever you want. Like eating. I'm hungry now, and my feet tread the sizzling pavement for a pizza and then a coffee. At the Starbucks, I take a picture of 3 men who were at some studio function. They're friends. They want a memento of being all dressed up in tuxes, getting iced coffees. Smile, I say, it's balmy. And the guy in the Ray-Ban says, wow, sweetie, that's a really pretty, unusual name. So that's number 1. Yay, SoCal. Yay, the impossible necklace of neighborhoods and places that constitutes the sprawl of Southern California. And now I'm going to take you to a very different place, and I am going to have to do some scrolling, so please bear with me. This is near the beginning of the collection. And we are getting there eventually. I hate it when poets do this, so now here I am doing this. So what shall I read next thing? Here we go. This is, I'll stop for a second and say, I find meter in English difficult to do. I really prefer syllabics, counting syllables. That's something that I find easier and more fun to do. So this is Night in 5, 1959, Fire Island, New York. There are no stars in New York City. The sky is black because the buildings tower up, windows of whiteness. So try, imagine, stars seen for the first time, coming out of a movie with parents. On Fire Island, I looked at the big sky filled with tiny brights, scattered sparkles. I said, look, but they did not see. I lone walked, quiet. See, I knew myself different. I felt things they didn't. They talked about the movie, but I kept watching stars all this time, making wishes to bring back to the city so that each lit aperture could become marvelous, a just discovered shared constellation. So that's my other favorite. And as you can tell, I'm a New Yorker originally. So that's part of my appreciation for LA and the Southern California, which is the opposite. It's this way, whereas New York is all this way. But now I thought we'd do a little bit of reading of each other's poems. And Katie, I really would kind of like to just glide into my favorite poem of yours, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
And my favorite is, if I can find it, The Apple Polisher. So let me see if I can find it.
And I almost read that one at the beginning, but.
Perfect. Okay, so this is my favorite poem of Katie's. The Apple Polisher. She sells her apples to the highest bidder at market. She comes home with pennies in her pocket, freedom. The market corners her apples the way a page comes to a point at its corners, sharp and full of unearned wisdom. Someone somewhere is always polishing the apples for sale, and they get shinier by the moment. Sometimes she throws the apple of discord into the crowd and watches them fight over the fruits of her labor. Fruits are always born of women, she knows. She carries them in a satchel, she clutches them. Eve knew even as she drew down her first bite that all children eventually perish. Drosophila hover over the windfall. Every fleshy fruit is derived of an ovary with child. She adores the process, not the product. Her apples cry at being sent to the market, but she can only bear so much. They are too sweet. There are those who would not partake of her apples if they knew where they came from. They too were her apples once, now seeded into tree. Her calyx aches with every bite of their bitter butter. Yeah, I just love that. It's really fun to read also. So, okay, Katie. Oh, okay, you're up, Katie.
All right. Well, that was so much fun hearing my words coming out of your mouth. All right, my turn. So I want to read a poem that is from City Slicker. Have you seen 2017, Coopville, Washington? My dog. A white guy pulls up in a truck. The poet adjusts her straw hat. Is he some horny senior citizen trying to pick her up like the bearded man last summer who drove next to her for 10 minutes while she was walking, telling her about life on the island and how crazy his first wife was? He was so broken down old that it took her 9 minutes to realize that this was indeed a pickup attempt. So this time she's ready. But no, this man is looking for his golden-haired retriever. She's really friendly, he keeps on saying. Then, I live over there at the place with the fence. Poet says, I'm your neighbor. She points in the direction of her house. No reaction. What's your name, she says. Gary. He doesn't ask who she is. My dog, he says. My dog. I'll keep an eye out, Poet says, wondering how she'll ever reach him if she sees the dog, because he hasn't said his address or given her any information other than that he has a fence, but then so do several people. She watches to see what driveway he pulls into. She walks to the end of the road and turns around. Then she sees this different, slightly younger white man in shorts standing by his mailbox. Did you lose a dog? He says. She says, no, but Gary did. Who's he? Says Shorts. He's your next door neighbor, answers Poet. Well, tell him I have his dog. Poet walks back, sees Gary in his truck, flags him down. That guy down there has your dog, she informs him. Gary guns the engine. Suddenly, a white woman with a shiny silver necklace runs out of Gary's driveway. Have you seen our dog? No, says Poet for the third time, but your neighbor has. Necklace looks blank, then says, he's so upset, meaning the poet thinks Gary. Poet walks home. Pours a glass of wine, remembers her big East Coast city mother observing in an overcrowded subway car packed with silent, sweaty strangers. You know, people can be really weird. I love that poem. I love that poem. So thank you, Stephanie, for writing it.
You bet. And Katie, you did an incredible job. I loved hearing you read it. It was great. It was really, really fun to hear you read that one. Based on a true story, everybody. Just saying.
That could be expanded into a feature film.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that was awesome. And now we are at the wild card poems. So we were hoping that maybe someone from the audience could give us an assignment, like read a poem that starts with a proper name, or read a poem that has, I don't know, a bird in it. I'm not sure I have a poem with a bird in it, but some kind of wacky assignment, and then we'll just pick a poem that we think maybe fits that category.
Yeah.
I got one for you. It's something that Jack Grapes used to have us do when we were in his workshop. Read a poem from finish to start.
Ooh.
Read a poem from finish to start. So you want me to read it backwards?
So read it backwards?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it's crazy.
Can I go first, Stephanie?
Yes.
And I want to share something. When I was in middle school, I'm a poet because of Jack Grapes. Jack Grapes came into my middle school classroom in the 8th grade, and along with a poet named Doreen Peretz. And that was my very first experience with poetry. You know, my parents were both blue collar workers, and we didn't write poetry in my house. And that was literally transformative. And I have now, now I am executive director of a literary nonprofit with a boatload of books. And my whole life revolves around poetry and kids and family. All right. So this, I'll read this from finish to start, and we'll see how this works. Won't and can't between difference, the consider. Lot there about brethren, therewith lament. Lace-ups like new, as listen, floor, closet, the on nestle bunnies, dust ghostly. Eyes there in sunscreen and soap rub. Cuts paper in alcohol drizzle. Tongue ulcerated, and with lemons, juicy suckling of dream, dead, the again feel, them make to anything. Cuts, blisters, seeking, restless us among Rome, dead, the glass broken of gutters, shrapnel, asphalt, beaches, rocky, stones the invite, divide the of, side either on up, rise toes, knobby, them call to learn, have you whatever? Thongs, zoris, chanclas, flip-flops, where they? Shoes, their tie, cannot, dead, the because. Your turn.
Oh, that's a wild exercise. I really, really, really love it. And it's crazy what parts of it totally pop and work. Thank you so much, Marc, and thank you so much, Katie, and how great that it's, what they say in Yiddish is, beschert. It was sort of fated that you asked that question, Marc, because Katie was like, yes, Jack Grapes. So I will I will attempt to do the same thing. So here we go. Burnt, be, to, only, good, and, dead, was, thought I, aliveness, and, of, wonder, slime, the, forget. Never personally I, but pine cones about minding never. Stones tiny skip stream the to walk we, upstand, go. Let I, slug a, eyes bad, pretty already my with investigate to, down crouch, eye so cold, it's and wet is thing brown this. Dry and brittle are pine cones, wrong feels just. It, pine cone, a like mottled and brown is that. Thing thee, up pick I when so ears my on. Strangely sit, and me too new are they. Because glasses my wear, don't I? Cabin thee in with, fire thee, start. To pine cones fallen, for looking woods, the in cascades, the walk, dad, my, and me. That was fun. It's hard to do it, but totally a fun thing to do. Wow.
Yeah. All right. Do we need to read them the other direction so you know what we said, or?
I think we do.
Okay.
Yes.
So rewind, Stephanie.
All right. So this is Pine Cones, 1962, and it's in the shape of a pine tree, which here I am showing you my phone, and all you're seeing is kind of a phantasmagoria, but it's there. Me and my dad walk the cascades in the woods looking for fallen pine cones to start the fire with in the cabin. I don't wear my glasses because they are new to me and sit strangely on my ears. So when I pick up the thing that is brown and mottled like a pine cone, it just feels wrong. Pine cones are brittle and dry. This brown thing is wet and it's cold. So I crouch down to investigate with my already pretty bad eyes. A slug. I let go, stand up. We walk to the stream, skip tiny stones, never minding about pine cones. But I personally never forget the slime wonder of an aliveness I thought was dead and good only to be burnt. Thank you very much. So Katie, rewind.
Okay. And where did it go? Because I closed it. Here we go. You'll notice a theme in many of the poems. So, because the dead cannot tie their shoes, they wear flip-flops, chanclas, zoris, thongs, whatever you have learned to call them. Knobby toes rise up on either side of the divide, invite in the stones. Rocky beaches, asphalt shrapnel, gutters of broken glass. The dead roam among us, restless, seeking blisters, cuts, anything to make them feel again. The dead dream of suckling juicy lemons with an ulcerated tongue. Drizzle alcohol in paper cuts, rub soap and sunscreen in their eyes. Ghostly dust bunnies nestle on the closet floor. Listen as like new lace-ups lament with their brethren about their lot. Consider the difference between can't and won't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So where shall we go from here, Stephanie?
Elena, would you like to, do we want to stop and hear a couple more open
Can
mics?
you,
How do-
yeah, we'll do
Okay.
that. Because we don't have too many. Anyway, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so now let's hear a poem from Steve McCormick.
Thank you, Elena. Wow, that was so fun to see all the poetry play there. It reminds me of creative writing class that I took when I was in college, where a visiting professor had us each write just one line of poetry. That was the prompt. Just write one line of poetry. Then we tore them out of our notebooks and threw them in a hat. And he pulled them out of the hat one line at a time and read it out loud. And it's amazing what your brain does as a listener. I mean, you just try to make sense of it all, and it can really work. And he had something about metaphor. His definition of metaphor was the equation of opposites, but I think something really fun happens when you do that. And listening to Lois read her poem before, I was remembering the first time I met Susan and Lois, and Susan read one of Lois's poems, and I think that's always a great idea, Elena, that you could come back to and have people read each other's poems. Pretty cool idea. Can everybody hear me okay? My feed is jumping around. Oh, I see what's happening. I'm going to read fast because my computer is about to die. Imagine this in Lois's voice. Love is a thin filament stretched taut against the wind. It sings a wispy siren cry, a spider song of infinite douleur, harping up and down an open and airy strain, past unbearable pitches and the bluest notes of nature. It whistles between tooth and tongue, whispering a sad desideratum, an enslaved vacancy, impossible to free, a tantric hum stuck deep in the throat, swallowed to the reeds of the tonsils, an oscillating tone of fingered crystal, howling balefully on the moor. It incarnates the air it breathes, cups its hands, and blows across its thumb knuckles, shaping a windy tone that, though it warms the palms, stokes neither life nor flame as it numbs the sense of song. It is the call of a water bird, or the long lunar moan of a coy wolf, a calculated cackle driving buffalo to the edge of a South Dakotan precipice, eagle feathers atop a black hill, flapping like prayer flags in the cairns. Yet love also is a high aria, in frequencies quenching the thirsty ears of God, a color beyond the rainbow, a pellucid light so clear it blinds death itself, where time on earth meets the limits of sense, saturated living hue going to ghost, fragrance to pheromone, a taste of cherry wine on tongue kisses.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Let's hear Nancy Murphy.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. This is so fun. I love hearing all this interesting work. I have a new piece that I'm working on. It's called "This Is How It Works." Every time is a first for something, a first second even. I remember how the trees bowed to me, They emerged from the fog that morning like saints. Nature doesn't defend itself when you yell at it, like it doesn't care. What makes me calm? What I won't tell you? What is the legal limit for vices? I always had to go too far to make sure. Blood on paper looks like ketchup, like you were just eating your dinner when it happened. I could stand if I had to. I could drive us too, if I had to. Candles start things, fires, kisses, light bouncing, you forget yourself. Some things can only be written in invisible ink on the inside of your eyelids. I want to change one thing about myself, but I had my chance. There's an orbit here, and it's not around me. It never was. I'm not leaving this party crying. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now let's welcome Marc Petrie.
Thank you, Elena. And this has been really fantastic. I'm glad that Jack has had an influence on you, Cati. I hope I'm for Katie. It's wonderful to hear you, and I hope I get to hear you in the Inland Empire sometime. This week, I had a really fantastic event happen to me. I got anthologized in this anthology. It's an anthology called Light on the Wall of Life, a tribute to Lawrence Ferlinghetti. It was conceived before Lawrence died, but my first real big break, if you want to call it that, was when I had 9 pages of poems published by Lawrence Ferlinghetti in the City Lights Review back in 1995. And so I have this thread that goes through Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and to get published in a anthology of his work, and especially I speak French, and the poem that I chose to write, I did a translation. Well, Ferlinghetti translated Cancre, which means dunce, by Prévert, who also is one of my favorite poets. And I rewrote it, and I teach math in a very, very dodgy neighborhood. And so I called it Bad Student, and I adopted it to my experiences teaching at Willard School. And sometimes my worst students, behavior-wise, end up being my greatest inspirations at the end of the year. So this is called Bad Student. His face says no, even as his heart says please. He texts those he likes on his cell phone under the desk, even as the teacher glares. He gets up to sharpen his pencil in the middle of a lesson, and when the teacher questions his movements, he howls with derision as he cranks the handle to sharpen the pencil to a nub. He mocks the algorithms, the numbers, the words, the rules. He makes his way even as the maestro writes them on the whiteboard. He makes his way to the board as the good students in this class shout, "Sit down." He grabs all 4 board markers, blue, green, red, and black, then draws a magnificent multicolor knurl over the sterile white background.
Thank you, Marc. Thank you. And now let's welcome Marie Lecrivain. Marie, are you there? Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. I'm putting together something. I've been writing a lot of creative nonfiction lately. And I found a piece that I had written about the last time I went to a concert with my best friend, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And this is called In the Shadow of Gary Newman, High Priest of the Gen Xers. It says, we arrive fashionably late to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, but the residents don't mind. The full moon glides between the dark fronds of palm trees. We walk with the black-clad Gen Xers, most of whom now hold on to the rails as they ascend the stairs into the Hall of Architects. Among them, my green and blue Venetian coat screams obscenities. We make our way to the merchandise table to purchase the obligatory offerings. I choose a CD filled with a new set of splintered psalms, and then move to the next line to procure the required amounts of spirits and water. We're adrift in an overheated middle-aged sea of geeks, bald domes set against dead can dance tees, wives and girlfriends decked out in their classic goth best. It's that kind of an occasion. I look like a soccer mom. My Doc Martin Mary Jane's the only correct accessory. The haze from the smoke machine camouflages our wrinkles, as well as the other natural shocks to which the human flesh is bound. The lights dim as the musicians step on the dais. Gary appears, stage left, his wiry body and shock of Robert Smith hair a blessing and a joy forever. We tune into the seductive string of primal growls that generate from the low end of an amp under torture. Gary contorts his body in tribute to dear old Max, the elder god of goth. Our bodies begin to twitch in a series of reluctant, minuscule movements. We are golems who wish to shed our status quo and pogo like we used to. I search for a mosh pit and sadly find none. We start to bend and sway, our semi-creaky bones now more pliant as we move through Gary's songs and a rediscovered muscle memory. The veils fall away as we shed the weight of 4.5 years. We become who we once were, the bastard generation who danced in the hinterlands of the Cold War. We become our own mythology. It is here we shine darkly. And above our heads, Gary's shamanic shadow reigns supreme, head thrown back in ecstasy and right hand raised in triumph.
Thank you. Thank you, Marie. And now let's hear Dayna Leslie Hodges.
Thank you. Gosh, what an incredible night. I just loved hearing everything. This poem is called Her Feet Don't Fit the Imprints of Her History Anymore. She turns to retrace her steps, loses her footing. Her feet don't fit the imprints anymore of her history. She has grown into the woman her heart once only hoped for. She begins running in the direction towards her memories taunting her, reminding her of her failures of which she's never forgotten, and who she was when she believed she didn't matter. The taunts want her to retreat, forget who she is, wants her to trip and fall into the ruts and indentations that kept her small and incognito for too many broken seasons on repeat. She did fall and trip over her own shame, then came to her senses. Her heartbeat recalibrated into the present. She remembered who she is today and all the tenacious hard work it took to become her authentic self amidst all of her many fears and insecurities and nervous tendencies that once held her down before she learned how to breathe in the wider sky, embracing her freedom and truth. She remembered she matters, remembered she is loved for the quirky, genuine mosaic she is.
Thank you. Thank you, Dayna. And now let's welcome Paul Thiel. You need to unmute. Paul, you need to unmute.
I did unmute. Am I here?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Now you are, yes.
Okay, thank you. This is written for a friend of mine, an acquaintance, years back in New York City. Holly. Top star of Andy Warhol's table, with exotic features thanks to her heritage of Puerto Rico. Gained her an ascendancy with all the regulars she encountered at the factory. Then she starred in Trash, probably the most popular of Warhol's films. I knew her in her moments off. It was like knowing Marilyn Monroe off stage. Any minute she could snap into position and you'd gasp at the creation manifested in front of you. Holly could be vulnerable one moment, then bite your head off the next. She shared an apartment with my old pal in the seediest part of the East Village, as it was then, and shared some recreational drugs as a necessity. One glorious time in the exceptional life of Holly, she impersonated the French ambassador's wife at a posh event. She was lively and dressed very elegantly, but was found out, arrested, and dumped quite unceremoniously in the woman's house of detention right there on 6th Avenue. When they unwrapped her in all her glory, they found some goodies tucked between and removed him to a more suitable venue. Andy, getting wind of that, quickly extracted his star from her very ignoble situation. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Okay, now let's welcome Susan Rogers, who's driving somewhere on the PCHO. Where are you?
I pulled over. So let's see. I'm here. My phone is gonna, yeah, I'm here. So let's see. I was just actually on my phone here. I have a choice. You can actually choose. They're both kind of Ukrainian influenced. One is a high boon with a crop circle with sunflowers, and one is a high boon with about my grandmother in Kiev. Do you have a choice? Anyone choose? Okay, well, I think I'm gonna read the one for my grandmother. It's called Holding On. I don't know if you can see me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. There we go. Listening to the news of Kiev under attack, I recall stories of my grandmother. I can still hear the urgency in her voice, although it's been years since she's been gone. She told me, I was born in the small town Pavlich in 1905 near Kiev. My father was a businessman who leased an orchard in the spring. He would estimate, buy trees, then harvest apples, pears, grapes. In the summer, we all went there and lived in huts to help get the fruit from trees. It was very good until times changed. Often we had pogroms. This was very bad because when Cossacks came, we never knew who would survive. We used to run away to friends' homes and hide. The last time they came, half of the Jewish people were killed. Houses burned, women raped. They ran through streets and killed my cousin, who was supposed to have a baby. They killed her, but not the baby. Then they came into my house. My mother was smart. She had my sister Anna in bed with all kinds of medicine. The men were afraid to touch her because they thought they would get the sickness. They took some of our things, but they didn't harm us that time. We decided enough was enough. We sold our house and paid a man to take us to the river. He came in the middle of the night and took us to the Dnieper. The river was deep and we thought we would drown. My father carried his mother on his back and the older children carried the younger ones. The water was up to our necks. We were caught once in a field and taken to jail, but later released and brought to Romania. A charitable organization helped us out. We did not know the language, and the money we had was not good. We did odd jobs. My dad and brothers worked all day for a loaf of bread, but when they brought it home and cut it open, it was full of maggots, and we had to throw it away. A lot of the time we were hungry, but we made it. We finally came to America. Ukrainian spring. Everywhere I turn, blossoms, yellow and blue. Unseasonable heat. This year, even warmer in Kyiv. Cliff's edge. A wild sunflower holding on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Susan. Whew. Okay, let's welcome Joe Cami.
I'm gonna do a story. Could you see me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, I couldn't see me. Yeah, I'm gonna do a story poem. It's an amphibrox. Somebody brought up meter. It's Old Billy's money. The river was flowing, the winter winds blowing, the twilight was splashing, the clouds like dark blood. I loaded my rifle real quiet and careful and knelt on my knees by some trees in the mud. I knelt by the river, caressing the trigger in time with the water caressing the shore. Cold metal caressing, cold feelings depressing. Susanna, I'll never caress anymore. The shadows were merging, the sunlight submerging, a whippoorwill wailing away in the trees, a sickening feeling, just waiting there kneeling and feeling the clammy cold mud on my knees. Old Billy was coming. Old Billy was running. He seemed to be running as quick as he could. The old man was wheezing. He hardly was breathing, although for his age, he ran pretty damn good. Been years since I seen him, this broken old Cajun. The closer he got, the more rotten to reek. I stood and surprised him, oh, how I despised him. I pointed my gun and I started to speak. Now listen, old Billy, you owe me blood money. You sorry old coon ass. I'm sorry to say your life ain't worth nothing. Your money's worth something. You're going to pay or you're going to pay. He stared and he smiled. I was blazing and wild, just laughing at death as if life were a joke. Then suddenly sneering, I was angry and tearing and shaking his fist in my face as he spoke. Before your damn finger pulls back the damn trigger and damns me to hell where I'm going to go. I'll tell you a story. You shoot, you'll be sorry. I'm innocent, honest. You listen, you'll know. I'll teach you a lesson. And no, I won't listen. You listen, old Billy. You pay me or die. She was my daughter you dropped in the water. The tears on the grave of the waves that go by. What tears, he was mumbling and grunting and grumbling and grinning, displaying his broken brown teeth. How much is she worth, our blood blended by birth? My money's as green as a funeral wreath. You dirty damn devil, you're rotten and evil. Your laugh is as murdering babies is funny. You vicious disgrace. I should blow off your face. I'll shoot you right now and forget your damn money. Forget my damn money. That wouldn't be easy because, oh, we both know there's so much to forget. You'll get satisfaction, no business transaction. You kill me, that's something we both may regret. Now put down your weapon. You'll hear how it happened. That's right. Set it down and I'll tell you a tale. I'll kill you, old Billy. Oh, no, you won't kill me. You'd rather be rich than be rotting in jail. Susanna, my daughter, you chased her. You caught her. But you didn't want her. You wanted my wealth. You used her, abused her, depressed her, confused her. You gave her a child and ruined her health. You married her, left her a child. You left her for whoring and drinking. You went far astray. Susanna gave birth to a baby who's worth far more than the money you want me to pay. That's reason to slaughter your daughter's own daughter. You murdered my daughter because your daughter died. That's not how it happened. Just shut up and listen. Before your wife died, I was there by her side. She sat by the river, her feet in the water. Her heart was the disease, boy, her heart that you broke. Susanna was dying, the baby was crying. Your name was the very last word that she spoke. She sat by the river, her feet in the water. Heart was disease, boy. Her heart, I messed it up. Sorry. Yeah, just screwed it up.
That's it?
Well, yeah, I just,
man.
I ruined the line. But I could try going back to that part.
Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, so go back to the booze and the whores you enjoyed. No. Susanna was dying, the baby was crying. I'm just trying to get to a point where I could pick it back up.
Take your time.
Okay. Your name was a very kill you, old Billy. Oh no, you won't kill me. You'd rather be rich than be rotting in jail. Susanna, my daughter, you chased her, you caught her, but you didn't want her. You wanted my wealth. You used her, abused her, depressed her, confused her. You gave her a child and ruined her health. You married her, left her a child. You left her for whoring and drinking. You went far astray. Susanna gave birth to a baby who's worth far more than the money you want me to pay. That's reason to slaughter your daughter's own daughter. You murdered my daughter because your daughter died. That's not how it happened. Just shut up and listen. Before your wife died, I was there by her side. She sat by the river, her feet in the water. Her heart was diseased, boy. Her heart that you broke. Susanna was dying. You know, I'm going to pull up the poem and just read it. Sorry. I was practicing this all day. And I did it yesterday, but I'm not doing it well today. All right, I got here. All right, so where are we? No. All right. Oh, okay. That's where I screwed up. Okay. Susanna, my daughter, you chased her, you caught her, but you didn't want her. You wanted my wealth. You used her, abused her, depressed her, confused her. You gave her a child and ruined her health. You married her, left her a child. You left her for whoring and drinking. You went far astray. Susanna gave birth to a baby who's worth far more than the money you want me to pay. Oh, sure, I went whoring when life got too boring. But I loved your daughter far more than you did. I'm weak and I'm bad, but you're no dad. You're evil, old Bill. Why'd you kill my poor kid? The baby was crying. Susanna was dying. Her heart was diseased, boy. Her heart that you broke. She sat by the river, her feet in the water. Your name was the very last word that she spoke. She sat by the river, her feet in the water. She waited and waited, but you never came, just sitting there waiting and cursing and hating. Imagine the pain. It's not you who's to blame. That's reason to slaughter your daughter's own daughter. You murdered my daughter because your daughter died. That's not how it happened. Just shut up and listen. Before your wife died, I was there by her side. She sat by the river, her feet in the water. Her heart was diseased, boy. Her heart you destroyed. Susanna was dying, the baby was crying. Go back to the booze and the whores you enjoyed. I'll go when I'm rich, you old son of a bitch. Or dig you a ditch if you choose not to pay me. You sorry old coon-ass. I'll kill you as soon as you say you won't pay. So you better obey me. You think I believe you won't shoot me and leave as soon as I pay you the money you crave? I know I'll get shot if I pay you or not. You're poor, so I'll happily lie in my grave. So what are you saying? What game are you playing? You're claiming you'd rather get shot than be saved? You must have gone crazy refusing to pay me. You think that you're brave, but you're really depraved. Just pay me, okay? I'll be gone on my way. I'll leave right away. I'll be miles from here. I'll leave you, I swear it. I'm broke. I can't bear it. I fear it. Just pay and I will disappear. Get down on your knees, boy, and beg me. Say please, and maybe I pay you, and maybe I don't. I drop to my knees. Please pay me, Bill, please. I'll leave if you do, but you're dead if you don't. The touch of hard metal, a rifle's cold muzzle in back of my head. And then Bill says, stay still, you're moving, you're dead. Who's behind me, I said. I pleaded, please pay me, don't murder me, Bill. That doesn't make sense. This is just self-defense. I knew you was here, so I set up a trap. Now shoot him, Bill said. He looked over his head. I'm sick of this man. I'm sick of his crap. I Figure I'm dead, I said, turning my set head to see who was standing there holding a gun. A girl stood there sadly. Bill yelled at him madly, "Girl, shoot, he's the one, so now get the job done." "I'm sorry, Granddaddy," she told him so sadly, tears fell from the little girl's little brown eyes. "I know Daddy's bad, but I can't kill my dad." "Billy, those rumors you drowned her were lies?" "While you was in jail, boy, I told a tall tale. Made sure that you heard that your daughter was dead. I figured you'd hear it, never come here, and never come near a black hair on her head." She dropped the old rifle and hugged me so careful, so tearful, so tiny, so pretty, so sweet. I looked up at Billy, his checkbook, his money. I pushed her away and I stood in defeat. Been years since I seen her, my beautiful daughter inherited riches. I pissed mine away. I hear that she lives with her husband and kids. It seems that I got me a visit to pay. That's it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Sorry, I got lost in the poem. I couldn't figure out where I was.
Well, you're in the forest somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you. And now let's welcome all the way from the East Coast, R.J. Jeffries. Are you there, Jeff?
Thanks, yes, I am. Thanks, Elena. Yeah, I wasn't really going to read tonight. It's been one of those weeks. So I
Okay.
was hunting around at this poem for ages, and I thought I would just put it together tonight to read. It's short. If it's that term, maybe the second one. But for what it's worth, it's called "What Within Remains." I look deep within and wonder at. So many roads have I traveled. So many paths have I taken. So many people have I met. Life is an outward journey of many roads, of many paths, of many people. But in the end, only what remains inward, only what remains within is the essence of that matter that matters most of all. I know it's pretty weak, but sorry.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Okay, I think we've covered everybody, and now we start over. So let's hear from Katie.
Hi. Well, how much time do we have left?
I don't know. I mean, we just feel it. I'm not.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, let's see. It's 10:26, and I'm thinking that maybe Katie and I had talked about maybe reading a couple of political poems, but I would love to keep the space of Susan's amazing poem about her grandmother, and Sally, your wonderful poem. I can't I can't fix this shit poem. Those were both just great, and Katie, I kind of feel like we have these two amazing political poems already. So I was thinking maybe we'd each read maybe two more of our own. And I was thinking one of the things we talked about doing is reading the poem that's the most uncomfortable one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So shall we alternate?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't we alternate?
Okay, because if I could make a request, I'd like to be the last. Are we doing more open mic after?
Oh,
us?
yes.
Oh, so there's more. Okay. All right. So I have a poem that I guess, how does everybody feel about call and response? Do you want to unmute and participate?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So just repeat after me. Okay. And this is an experiment. This is a poem written after the death of a local poet named Julie Pagel. And it is, it's called Because the Dead Are So Beautiful. So I'm going to read a line and then you're going to repeat the line. And we'll do that throughout. Okay. Because the dead are so beautiful.
Because the dead are so beautiful.
We shield our eyes.
We shield our eyes.
From photographs.
From photographs.
Mirrors.
Mirrors.
Our own reflection.
Our own reflection.
Their beauty breaks us.
Their beauty breaks us.
We are that fragile.
We are that fragile.
We coax mercy from ash.
We coax mercy from ash.
A light dusting at cliffside.
A light dusting
at cliffside.
Contrition laces the milk of our days.
Contrition laces the milk of our days.
Tessellation of heart stars.
Desolation of heart stars.
Bursting. Nurture these delicate tinctures.
Nurture these delicate tinctures.
Florid decay.
Florid decay.
Okay. So that was for Julie Pagel. And I will read just, actually, I'm passing it over to Stephanie. I forgot that part. We're gonna.
No worries. That was great. Really, really interesting to do. And it's doing the call and response is so fascinating because you have to listen in a different way to the poem. And that's really, that it just kind of a different part of my brain was working. And that was really cool. Well,
Good.
I took the discomfort question literally. And Marc is here, and I know Marc is a French speaker, and I have a tendency to idealize cities. And that's sometimes a mistake because cities aren't always great places to be. And this is a very real example. This is Discomfort Poem, 1974, Paris, France. Watch this. I have diarrhea in Paris and I have to walk to the Hôpital Américain from the bus for miles. I have to stop every few minutes to catch myself from spilling my insides onto a very fancy boulevard. A friend is with me, but we don't know where we are going. No one seems to understand our broken French. La diarrhée, I keep on saying, la diarrhée, till we finally make it into the doctor's office. And guess what? He's not American at all, but Anglais. And he writes a disdainful colonial prescription and sends us back out to walk to the drugstore. We get there. It starts raining, and watch this. We just start to laugh. I giggle, carefully swallowing 4, then 6 of those old world Francais pills. And I still remember the name of the pills, Ganidon. They're great. I hope I don't know if they still make them in France, but they totally did the trick. Just saying. So now you have the crucial vocabulary should this happen to you.
Merci, madame. C'est bien dit.
Je vous en prie, monsieur. Je vous en prie. So Katie, I think maybe we want to close out so we can leave room for some other readers. Would you like to read your closing poem?
Or do you want, let's have the other readers and.
Oh, okay. And then we'll do one more at the end? We
Yes.
can do that.
Would that work? You can stay, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, okay.
Okay. All right. So let's hear from Lois P. Jones. No?
Okay, so journeying on this past life stuff. Here's another one from the series. And this is called, well, it's actually a title. The title comes from a line from Rilke, from the sonnets to Orpheus. No, it's from the elegy, ninth elegy. And where he says, wait, wow, this loud thing is making a noise here. Okay. He says, once for each thing, just once, no more. And we too, just once. I always disagreed with that. So here's the response. Once could never be enough. I found a city of narrow passageways where the day filtered in, dove gray, sheltered and soft. Sometimes an entire life is spent in museum light and you become a part of its diffusion. I might be anyone, a stranger caught beneath the repeating arc of portico, each curve rising in its rib. I might be the bas-relief portrait I pass under, the saint I was, the ruin I became. I could be satisfied as a hinge pin swung open, a handbell that's found its clapper. Once I awoke in a Venetian twilight and crept barefoot down the stone steps to the water to watch my face tremble with the moon. This was before they mistook me for a whore and later moored me to a life of silk and pearls and the salty breath of counts and countesses. But I was no courtesan de lune, but a woman worthy of sin. And they said, Angel, are you drowning your bedsheets, song skins in the moon's pool water? And I said, I spend my time like a coin on its back, shining for no one. Once I murdered a monk because he said my wife waited in a red satin kimono, her grandmother's obi bound around her wrists, how she opened for the prince like a persimmon in winter. I washed his blood away, but his body floated in a bed of glass below the river. It still drifts through my mind at the sight of red silk. Guilt is that red thread of fate, like an inseparable lover. It pulls taut at the slightest gesture. Rilke asks, but to the other realm, what can be taken? And I say, everything follows us from room to room, our lives hungry for what we feed it in the dark. We could have been anything, a swarm of honeybees in search of the perfect flower, wild indigo, marsh blazing star. Worlds begin like this. I can't hear you. You are muted.
I can't wait for your new book.
Oh,
thank you so much. Thank you.
Long way coming. Thank you.
So I will read something. It's a poem that was published in this omnibus anthology. It's a 600-page anthology. And we'll have the launching. Well, the launch was already happening a couple of weeks ago, but we'll have a reading of it in August. That's done by Daniel Yeran. And it's taken 10 years, and Lawrence Ferlinghetti and Wanda Coleman and all sorts of people are there. And this is my poem in the anthology. It is always evening. She's a scene I could read on my mother's impatient face as I, on the other side of customs, as I wait for my American passport to be stamped. 1984, Bucharest airport feels like Alcatraz prison after living as free as a monarch butterfly in London and Los Angeles. I can tell the customs officer is a secret police. They all are. Short military style hair, intimidating stare, eyeing me to see if I crack. I'm not about to let any doubt cross my face. I smile. The entry stamp is placed. I go through the barren doorway to baggage claim. Did they open my suitcase? Did they ransack my belongings like the last time when the combination lock was pried open? It is always evening. Miraculously, my suitcase is intact. Mother and Aunt Stella stretched necks waiting. There she is, pent-up emotion about to burst. Tears of joy run down our cheeks. Finally, we're in a taxi, silent, not a peep. It is widely known that most taxi drivers are securitate, secret police informers. We step out in total darkness, austerity program to pay the country's debt in full force. Not a street light in sight, only the occasional car zooming by. My suitcase is not only heavy, but awkward like a blushing nun. Darling, my mother starts, I dream of you arriving like the Queen of England, carrying only a handbag. My mother is so right. That would be my dream too. But, okay, that would be my dream too. But how can one arrive from the West without carrying a gift for relatives behind the iron curtain? Aunt Stella finds a pole, threads it to the handle. We carry the gigantic suitcase, stepping in and out of puddles. It is always evening when I visit my folks in communist Romania. Eerie darkness, dogs bark all around. Soon we'll be home, home, which is no longer my home. Thank you. And now let's hear Gregg Bell.
Okay, so I think I just unmuted myself. I'm going to go to a manuscript that I finished about a year ago and has been through revisions. And I sent it to the National Poetry Series contest, and they astonished me by not awarding it one of the prizes. So I'm working to find a home for it. This is about the middle of the manuscript, and I am in radiation treatment for cancer. It's called Session 15, One Love. The epigraph is Shakespeare's from a sonnet. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past. The rains have done, at least for a while, and all is clear, sky and sun and green, green for St. Paddy's Day. And I have my meditation. Jose escorts me into the dungeon of the infernal bird. The machine was named the Phoenix. Sidebar here. And whose green bejeweled lasers point my place. Stone slab, carbon softens to flower bed. For jungle green lily plant abloom with 3 parasitic blossomings, the whir of glide, the thump, the whine, the gantry aims, the light invisible, and as the phoenix turns, so turns the spindle of my mind to unbidden memories of Martin, of DJ, taken by cancer of the prostate, and to unbidden tears for friends hidden in death's unfathomable night. I float, dissolve, offer my gifts on the altar as Bob Marley wails me away. one love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right.
Thank you, Gregg. Thank you. And now let's hear Nancy Murphy.
I don't have a second one tonight. Thank you, though. Thank you. I'm enjoying the whole evening now.
Thank you. Sally Stevens. You have to unmute.
There we go. The best part. March 21st, 2008, CNN News. This morning, just off the coast of Florida, a 75-pound stingray leaped out of the ocean and killed a 57-year-old woman by knocking her backwards into the boat on which she had been sunbathing. She was, up until that very moment, anticipating a pleasant day in the sun and trying to forget that the best part of her life was over. Sadly, the encounter was equally fatal for the stingray. A tragic waste of a beautiful day at sea. Best is like quicksilver, fool's gold. It's like the ebb and flow of the sea. There it comes, here it comes, there it goes again. Are you worried that the best part of your life is over? Well, it is. There. Doesn't that feel better? Breathe. Savor the feeling. That woman, as she took her last gasp and wondered what the damp, heavy weight was that pinned her body to the deck, probably thought as she expired, some self-critical thought like, I knew I was too old for those spike-heeled deck shoes. A gypsy once told me I would be a late bloomer. It gives me great hope. I live for the unexpected, so I'm confident that the worst part of life is worrying about the best part being over. I encourage you to go on with your life as I have, trusting in the knowledge that the best part is over. Bam, but only for now. Think about that stingray. He probably thought that the best part of his life was over too, as he idly splashed in the waters off Tampa Bay. He probably thought he was a has-been, that it was all down current from there. He wasn't paying attention to the moment, and so he mindlessly allowed himself to fly in the path of that oncoming woman. But in your wildest dreams, if you were a stingray, would you ever have imagined that your death would become world news on CNN? See, another late bloomer. And as for the woman, think about this. The only person, it's fairly certain, to ever suffer death by blunt force at the hands, well, the body, of a 75-pound stingray. It just doesn't get better than that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now let's hear Marc Petrie.
I was at Yellowstone 4 days before it flooded. And this is a mercifully short poem for tonight, but one of my favorite poets is Jim Harrison, and one of my favorite books is Braided Creek, which he wrote with Ted Kooser. And when I was at Yellowstone, we stopped by a Braided Creek for lunch. And the first thing that popped in my mind was Jim Harrison. So I wrote this poem. It's called Braided Creek, Yellowstone, 6/10/2022. And it has epigraph. Every time I go outside, the world is different. And that's from Harrison and Kooser. On the bank of the braided stream, I watch two mallards float around a bend by the swift current. In the water song, ancient familiar voices rise from a stream not yet encountered.
Ooh.
Thank you. Thank you, Marc. I've been thinking about you. I mean, those pictures are horrific.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you made it out of there.
Me too.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yellowstone. I mean, that house and everything. Okay, moving on. Let's hear Dayna Leslie Hodges.
This poem is called Billboard. There is war in their eyes. victory hard won, to reach this pinnacle high up on billboards. Their faces tower amongst skyscrapers, their eyes stare out 12 stories tall. Success is seen by the masses. The war fought through the years blazes subtle and quiet desperation and fear of being seen. This personal war is obvious in their gaze to those sensitive enough to see it. Poignant history, shame's struggle, battles fought and won, broken notes of broken years crafted into music, colors the hues of their irises. Their pupils speak of wars raged into victory.
Thank you, Dayna. Thank you. And now let's hear Susan Rogers. Can you unmute? No, you have to unmute. Bring back the picture. You're still muted. You're still
there.
muted. Yeah,
Sorry.
There we go.
It's a little hard because I have only a smidgen of battery left in my car. So maybe let me try to kind of put my car back on and get more battery and go to somebody else, because I'm afraid I'll be cut off that's what happens when you pull over and you try to read. Let me pass the baton and I'll try to see if I can get battery.
Okay. Jeff, do you have another?
Sure, Elena, it's real quick. No, it's getting late. And thank you all for sharing your wonderful work. It's always a magic. I wait for weeks, literally, for the third Friday Salon to just revel and just let this all absorb into my marrow.
Thank you so much. And you're in Boston, right?
Well, Elena, thank you for the honor and the privilege to be here every 3 weeks. I just adore you all. Shades of gray. From outside my window view, the sea ebbs wane and cold, a turbid slab of slate below that makes my bones feel old. The sky's taken up the chill of the sea's capricious spray and turned itself to pallor from deep blue into gray. I declaim this day to draw my warp, not from the tint the sky is gray or from this whirling sea of slate, but from here behind my darkened shade. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. Thank you. Susan,
Okay, I'll try. So if I get cut off, I apologize. All right, so let's see. I'm going to read the other haibun I was thinking of reading, which is also connected because it's also about the situation in Ukraine. So it begins with like a haibun. It begins with a prose section, and then there's a haiku at the end, and it's called Like Music Rising. There are two epigraphs. Few have paid attention, and so outside forces have intervened. Crop circles explained. And by Saint Bernadette of Lourdes, for those who believe, an explanation is unnecessary. For those who don't believe, an explanation is impossible. In Krasnodar Krai, an overgrown wheat field startles. Scattered throughout the chaos of wheat, legions of sunflowers, ray flowers shaped like yellow tears, each inflorescence a surprise. They infiltrate the Russian wheat, wild sunflowers on a Krasnodar hill. At the edge of the slope, another one appears, unexpected, unfathomable. Its enormous head the size of an aircraft carrier. It bloomed in broad daylight, in the course of an hour, without explanation in Kuban, where the wheat lies down in surrender. Afternoon sunlight tints the wheat, sings high notes into its ears, gilding the mutant bloom. A skein of greater white-fronted geese circles, chasing thermals, squawking, as if to say, where did it come from? A young boy near the hill checks local news from his phone. A group of researchers say plants will bend in patterns when lightning strikes because of microwave emission. One researcher said stalks of cereals bent when he put them with a glass of water in the oven. But the boy was there the entire time, before and after. He was watching the clear sky fill with geese, wondering why they were there, circling. For a moment, he saw a large silver bird with triangular wings shimmer, but there was no lightning, only a wavering in the air. It moved like music. He felt rather than heard its rhythm rising. Afternoon hush, after the clamor of geese, wind song.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Okay, Stephanie.
Thanks very much, Elena. Thanks, everybody. Katie was talking about how death was a theme in her collection. Well, my father is a theme in mine. And you've I think heard him in one poem, and I'm going to close in honor of Father's Day with a poem that is dedicated to him. This is Bicycle 1969, New York City, for Leonard Hammer. I am 15, arriving unfashionably late at this delicate party of hovering over two wheels. Yeah, I know it's a kid's locomotion, but we live in the city, no driveways, no rural paths. Now I'm desperate to learn, even as I should be learning to drive, but again, no car. That's when he, of the renowned total impatience, remember teaching me tennis? That fiasco of broken rackets and hurled with rage yellow balls? Yes, him. He brings me to the park as the Big Apple leaves begin their greenness. We rent the vehicle and he holds the back of it and says, pedal. And he runs with me down the road between the fountain and the boats. I see my feet moving on the black pumping rectangles. Look up, he shouts, breathless. Steer. Then he lets go. That feeling of weightlessness as I leave him behind. But I hear him shouting hoarsely, you've got it, you've got it. I will never really like riding, but that moment of release with him waiting in the distance for me to turn around, I will still have it 50 years later, whenever I make something, knowing somewhere in the background, he lets go of me, still waits, completely attentive, beneficent, while I grip the handlebars and gear crank these words.
Beautiful, thank you. My daughter will never forgive us because we never taught her how to ride a bicycle. Great story, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's hear Katie.
Okay, hi there. I don't have a poem about fathers in here. I was trying to think, do I have something? So I will read a poem about childhood instead. Okay, and it was inspired by a dream that I had when I was a kid. And it is called Evergreen. The checkerboard boy unfolds before my eyes, the way a straw wrapper snake takes shape. Soon we are sipping chocolate egg creams in companionable silence. He and his saddle shoes match the linoleum. Sure, he's a square, but so am I. We hold our breath, so that this moment may last a lifetime. We know by morning he will again transmogrify. Soon the mood downshifts and Barbara Streisand makes us cry. Frost was right. We hold our breath all through the night. Okay, the end. And thank you for having me.
That's it.
Wonderful to hear all of you and to read with Stephanie.
Thank you all.
Back at you, Katie and Elena and all of you. What a great evening.
It's been a great night. Thank you all for staying.
Thank you, Elena, and thank
It's
you.
been wonderful. So I will close with a song. And I think Marc knows me by now. So, and this is one of Sally's songs too. I've heard you play this beautifully. So, something cool. I'd like to order something cool. It's so warm here in town and the heat gets me down. Yes, I'd like something cool. My, it's nice to simply sit and talk a while. And I know it's a shame I can't think of your name. I remember your smile. I don't ordinarily drink with strangers. I most usually sit alone, but you were so awfully nice to ask me, and I am so terribly far from home. Like my dress, I must admit it's very, very old, but it's simple and neat. It's just right for the heat. Save my furs for the cold. A cigarette? Well, I don't smoke them as a rule, but I'll have one. It could be fun with something cool. I bet you couldn't imagine that I one time had a house with so many rooms, I couldn't count them all. I bet you couldn't imagine I had 15 different beaux who'd beg and beg to tell me to take me to the ball. And I bet you couldn't picture me the time I went to Paris in the fall, or that the man I loved was quite so handsome, quite so tall. Well, I guess it's just a memory I had when I almost forgot, 'cause the weather's so hot and I'm feeling so sad about a date. Oh no, just wait. I'm such a fool. He's just a guy who stopped to buy me something cool. Yay. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So,
Good night.
good night. We'll meet again soon. Have a great rest of the trip, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Elena. Thank you, Katie. And thank you, everybody, for all your wonderful
Great to meet
work.
you,
Wow.
Katie. Great to meet you. Great to see you all.
Likewise.
Thank you.
See
Love you.
all in the
Bye.
real world sometime.
Thank you.
Bravi tutti.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care and
Thank
stay
you.
safe. It was wonderful to see you all again. Maylin, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.